Hello, everyone. Here is a place to share emotional daily experiences that will take you on a trip to uncover the secret corners of the psyche and the fight between reason and emotion. Each narrative not only evokes empathy, but also teaches valuable lessons about honesty, accountability, and the importance of relationships. Let us listen, ponder, and analyze this narrative together. I am Robert, 25 years old. An ordinary individual leads a peaceful existence in an ordinary household. But everything changed one night, which I will never forget. That evening, I intended to spend time outside with friends, but a weird feeling compelled me to come home early. When I entered the home, all I could hear was the gentle rain falling outside the window. Light from a few lamps in the living area provided a cozy ambiance. I wasn't expecting to see anyone at home, but I heard a faint sound coming from Linda's room. "Are you okay? Inda, are you okay?" I called, quietly inquisitive and a bit concerned. I heard weird noises inside, such as gently swinging draperies or rapid footsteps. I paused for a few seconds before pushing the door open, unable to control my nervousness. The door opened and I froze. Linda was before me, unlike anything I had ever seen before. The weak light from the television screen revealed her perplexed and shocked expression. We stood there, neither of us saying anything. It was difficult to describe. I wasn't sure what to do. Turn away, laugh to lighten the mood, or say anything to break the awkward silence. All I could say was, "Oh, I didn't mean to bother you." And I walked away, attempting to exit the room as fast as possible. However, the vision of Linda in that moment would not leave my thoughts. I told myself it was merely an accident. A chance encounter that meant nothing, but the mix of perplexity, terror, and an inexplicable emotion in Linda's eyes when I first saw her stayed with me. For days, I avoided her. I felt bad, but I didn't know why. But Linda also avoided me, and I couldn't help but wonder what had occurred. I finally decided to face her. I walked over one evening while Linda was washing dishes in the kitchen. "Linda," I called quietly, "I did not intend to anger you that night. I was simply worried." She hesitated, looked down at the sink, and then back at me. "It's fine, Robert," she responded, her voice sweet but slightly ashamed. "I should have locked the door." We were silent for a minute, but I couldn't help but inquire. "Are you okay? I mean, you don't look like your typical self." Linda seemed surprised by my inquiry. She gazed at me with eyes that reflected tiredness I had never seen before. "I am okay," she replied, but her tone seemed unconvincing. I did not force her. However, something in our relationship shifted after that. Our chats got more in-depth. She told me about her loneliness when James was continuously traveling on business, about the sensation of being lost that she never shared with anybody. In the following days, I couldn't help but notice that I was paying more attention to Linda than usual. I began to notice every feature about her, including the way she smiled sweetly and listened intently to me. Even as she turned away, my gaze remained fixed on her. I knew I needed to quit, but how could I stop when I had no idea where I was going? Despite our best efforts to preserve normalcy, my relationship with Linda deteriorated over the next few days. But how could we ignore it when it was weird moments continued to emerge, dragging us into an unnameable feeling? One evening when James was out on business, I decided to unwind on the back porch. I didn't expect Linda to be there either. She brought a bottle of wine, poured 2 glasses, and sat down next to me. The only sound was the wind. "Robert, sometimes I feel like I don't belong here," she stated abruptly, her voice low and confident. I turned to face her. What exactly do you mean when you say she laughed quietly but not happily? I'm not sure what I'm doing. Sometimes I feel stuck. James is constantly away, and I don't have anyone to talk to. Linda's statements astonished me. I never imagined she felt so alone. Linda, in my opinion, was always forceful and in charge of situations. But you're not alone, I remarked, almost automatically. I'm here. Linda gazed up at me, and it made my heart race. I realized I had gone too far. From that point forward, the space between us got less. Linda began to seek me out more frequently, not only for quick discussions, but also for little everyday issues. When I repaired the kitchen faucet, she stood by and watched me work. When I finished cleaning the garden, she brought 2 cups of coffee and sat down in a neighboring chair, discreetly but definitely wanting to keep me company. Linda entered the living room one evening while I was watching television. She called Robert, her voice gentle. Can't sleep? I asked, turning to face her. No, how about you? I shrugged. Linda didn't say anything else since she wasn't drowsy. I just sat down in the other chair. After a while, she spoke up to Robert. I would like to apologize for what happened that night. I was startled. You don't need to apologize. It was only an accident. We both knew it. Yet Linda's gaze did not leave mine. It is not. It is just. I believe I was mistaken. It was wrong to allow my emotions to go out of control. She paused, and the room became quiet. I sensed something heavy in the air, as if we were afraid to say what we actually believed. Finally, I rose up and approached her. Linda, you do not have to face this alone. If you need someone, I'm available. She gazed up at me with flaming eyes. For a brief period, I sensed Linda's hidden frailty. We sat closer together, and all barriers appeared to blur. We spoke all night, not daring to confront the facts, but not attempting to deny what was going on between us. Then one day, as we were returning from a nearby park, an unexpected visitor came to the door. Amy, my ex-girlfriend. She stood there with her eyes riveted on Linda and me. Robert, Amy spoke with a half-smile on her face. I haven't seen you in a long time. I felt my body tense, but I attempted to maintain a calm voice. Amy, what are you doing here? Amy shrugged her gaze, shifting significantly to Linda. I simply wanted to check in, but it appears I arrived at the appropriate time. Amy's remarks broke through the tenuous serenity Linda and I had managed to construct. Linda stepped back, her face blanched. Amy took a step nearer and looked directly into my eyes. It looks like I missed out on some intriguing information. I didn't know how to answer, but I knew things were going to grow much crazier than before. Amy's presence was like a storm rushing into Linda's, and my already troubled and hazardous relationship. I knew our delicate harmony had been disrupted as soon as Amy's arrival surged into Linda's, and my already turbulent and perilous relationship, with every word and look, not saying anything, but yet not letting go. Linda, I don't think we've ever met, she continued, her eyes bright with mischief. Linda smiled awkwardly, but her eyes revealed her concern. I am Linda James's wife. Amy's lips twisted into a familiar smile, signaling her intention to elevate the situation. Oh, Robert, it is interesting to learn that you live with such a lovely woman. I felt the strain in the air. Linda moved closer to me, attempting to seem cool, but I could tell she was terrified. I swiftly interrupted. Amy, if you have nothing significant to say, I think you should go. Amy gazed at me, her gaze daring me. but she ultimately went not before uttering something that sent shivers down my spine. "I will be back, Robert. You know I'm not one to give up lightly." As the door closed, I turned to face Linda. "She's only trying to stir trouble," I responded. "Don't worry." But even I didn't believe it. Linda shook her head slightly before moving over to settle on the sofa. "Robert, I don't think we can continue like this. This is quite risky." I sat down next to her and tried to soothe her. "Linda, I will tell Amy to go. I'll do all in my power to keep her out of our business." Linda continued, her eyes overflowing with sorrow and grief. "Robert, I'm not sure what this is. All I know is that I cannot ruin everything. I can't tell James or anybody else that she rose up and left the room before I could say anything further." Left alone, I felt like my world was collapsing. But it did not end there. Amy's appearances became increasingly regular during the following days. She didn't really break into the house, but she always left a trail that made Linda and me anxious. One day, I found her standing outside the gate, peering inside the home without saying anything. Another time, she left a message implying that she knew more than we did. The pressure increased with each passing day. Linda grew more secretive, attempting to avoid me. I also observed that she had begun to distance herself, seemingly to protect herself from the turmoil Amy was causing. Then one night, James called. His voice came through the phone low and exhausted after his long journey. "I'll be returning sooner than thought," he explained. My heart fell knowing there were only a few more days. James's reappearance would make things much more hazardous. Linda paled as she heard what I told her. "James will know, Robert. He'll know. We can't keep hiding this forever." I attempted to comfort her. We had done nothing wrong, yet we both knew it was not true. When James returned, the home was unusually silent. Linda spent the day cleaning and cooking dinner, attempting to maintain a regular environment. But the moment James stepped in the door, I knew everything had changed. Robert James welcomed me with a glance that pierced my soul. I attempted to remain calm, but I could not help but see the skepticism in his eyes. As we sat down to eat, the mood was strained as ever. James appeared to notice everything. Every glance, every word, and every minor action. Then he abruptly set his fork down on the table. "Is there something going on that I don't know about?" he inquired, his voice quiet yet firm. I glanced at Linda and realized everything had gone out of control. The hush that followed James's query appeared to endure forever. Time seemed to stand still with each passing moment, causing a deep pounding in my chest. Linda bent her head and avoided James's stare, and I sat still, trying to remain cool. Linda's shaky voice made whatever she said seem believable. "You're merely exhausted from work, so you suspect something's wrong." James didn't take his gaze off Linda. He didn't say anything else, but the mistrust in his eyes just added to the tension. Dinner passed in a suffocating stillness, with just the sound of knives and forks hitting plates. After supper, I left the table, but I could still feel James's gaze on me. As I climbed up the stairs, I heard him begin speaking to Linda. I couldn't hear everything, but his tone seemed serious, as if he was questioning her. I walked into my room, attempting to relax myself, but my nervousness refused to allow me. I knew James's concerns were not unfounded. Amy must have mentioned something to him. Then unexpectedly, the door to my room flung open. James strode, in his expression set. "Robert," he replied, his tone frigid. "We need to discuss." I nodded, trying to maintain my composure. "Okay, what is going on?" James came in and closed the door behind him. I am not dumb. I noticed how you and Linda gazed at each other. I heard Amy mention you and her. My heart was pumping, but I spoke calmly. Amy is simply trying to cause trouble. She enjoys complicating things. James lifted an eyebrow. So you're saying there's nothing between you and Linda? That I was envisioning things I didn't know how to respond to. Lying would have been the simplest option, but the expression in James's eyes made it impossible. Nothing I said my voice more confident than I felt. James stared at me for a long time, his eyes studying my every motion and word. Then he nodded and said nothing more. He turned and exited the room, leaving me standing there as if I'd escaped an interrogation. I knew his concerns had not gone away. They had simply been momentarily put aside. But I also knew Linda and I were running out of time. The following day, James left early for work. I met Linda in the kitchen. She appeared fatigued, her eyes black as if she had not slept all night. He knows, she added gently, almost whispering. No, he's just suspicious, I explained, attempting to soothe her. We still have time. Linda shakes her head. Amy will not stop. And James, he's not easily deceived. So I took a step closer to her and placed my hand in hers. Linda, I will defend you. I will chat with Amy. How will I repair this? Robert, Linda gazed up at me, her voice heavy with hopelessness. Amy refuses to stop until everything is broken. I didn't have a response, but I knew I couldn't let it go that way. That night, James arrived home earlier than usual. He summoned Linda and me into the living room. When we arrived, he was already seated on the couch, his face frigid. Sit down, he said, motioning to the chair across from us. Linda and I sat down, feeling as if we were awaiting judgment. We need to speak it out. James said, his voice quiet but fierce. I am not foolish, and I want the truth. Linda took a deep breath and clasped her hands together. James, this is nothing. I warned you Amy was only trying to stir trouble. So why did she select you? Robert James turned to face me. Why not anybody else? I maintained my eyes steady and impersonal. Amy has had issues with me for a long time. She refuses to comprehend that I broke up with her. James scowled and looked at me as if he were trying to see through my words. Okay, he replied, finally getting up. I won't press you, but I will discover the truth. When that happened, he faded off, but the message was clear. A threat. Linda glanced at me, terrified, as James exited the room. What do we do? Robert gripped her hand. We will not allow him to destroy what we have. I promised. But deep down, I wasn't sure how long it would endure. In the days that followed, the tension in the house was like a stretched string about to explode. James kept his cool, but I could see he was watching for hints. Linda grew increasingly distant. She barely dared to be alone with me. And if James was around, her eyes were filled with worry. I understood the urgency of taking action before the situation escalated. One evening, I resolved to face Amy. I went to her home, a little apartment on the outskirts. Amy opened the door with a victorious expression on her face, as if she knew I was approaching. What are you doing here, Robert? She questioned, her tone angry. I want you to stop. I murmured, attempting to maintain my composure. Amy chuckled coldly. You're just trying to destroy everything, for no reason. No reason you think I have no cause to see you and your stepmother sneaking around Robert. You are so naive. I moved closer to her. If you do not stop, I will make you stop. Amy lifted her eyebrows, the challenge in her eyes intensifying. What are you planning to do? Threaten me. Robert, you have nothing to frighten me with. I said nothing more. I departed with a sorrowful heart. Amy was not easily persuaded, and I realized our time was running out. 2 days later, everything detonated. James arrived home sooner than planned. I was in the kitchen with Linda when I heard his car arrive outside. Linda was pale and her hands shook as she gazed at me. "Robert, we can't continue like this," she whispered quietly, her voice scratchy. I began to respond, but before I could, James entered. "Sit down," he urged, his voice sharp as a razor. Linda and I sat at the kitchen table facing James. He put an envelope on the table, his eyes brimming with restrained wrath. "This is what Amy sent me," he replied, shoving the envelope toward us. Linda opened the letter with trembling hands. "The images and texts are incontrovertible evidence of our relationship." Linda let go, the images tumbled to the table, and I sat there quietly. James stared at me, his eyes filled with disappointment and fury. "I trusted you, Robert. I believed you were a member of this family. But you have deceived me." I was speechless in my own house. Any justifications were useless now. James turned to Linda, his words angry. "You are my wife. I gave everything for you, and this is how you return me." Linda burst out in tears, unable to speak. James responded, "Get out of my house," his voice low but firm. "Both of you." Linda attempted to persuade me, but I already knew it was over. There was no means of fixing it. I left the house the next day carrying a few belongings and a sorrowful heart. Linda also departed, although I don't know where she went. We've lost communication. Amy had met her goal, but she was no longer significant. What I had lost, my family, James's trust, and my own self-esteem, was irreversible. Over time, I attempted to reconstruct my life, but no matter where I went, Linda's memories and what had transpired clung to me like never-ending scar. Perhaps this was the cost of my mistake, a lesson I will carry with me for the rest of my life. My experience with its flaws and irreversible repercussions teaches a powerful lesson about the need for honesty and accountability in relationships. When I became involved in the inappropriate relationship with Linda, I not only lost James's confidence, but also ruined all of the principles that our family had formerly upheld. That's when I discovered that every action, no matter how minor, has repercussions, and one mistake can ruin everything that is most valuable. My biggest error was not just allowing my emotions to rule me, but also not confronting the facts and accepting responsibility. Silence and avoidance are never answers. They simply exacerbate and harm everyone concerned. Maybe if I had been honest from the start, learned to regulate my emotions and respected limits, things might have turned out differently. Always maintain honesty and responsibility. Each connection requires a person. Honesty is the basis. If you are torn in your feelings or have concerns about your acts, confront them and find a means to reconcile them rather than being sly and concealing. Learn to regulate your emotions from time to time. Strong emotions might cause us to forget our underlying principles and required limits. Take the time to think before acting, especially if you know your actions may cause harm to others. Cherish what you have. Family trust and genuine connections are difficult to come by. Don't allow fleeting emotions or weakness to undermine what you've accomplished. Seek assistance when you need it. If you are experiencing confusing emotions or internal conflict, speak with someone you trust. Or get professional assistance. Nobody can do anything alone. Life is a set of choices, and each option has a value. Make the proper decisions, even if they are difficult, since they will shape who you are and what you leave behind. My narrative ends here with the unavoidable repercussions of my mistakes. Every decision has an impact, and I've learned that sometimes loss is the only way to grasp the worth of what you had and what you lost.